Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Rogue One. As a heads up, I will just say, if you liked this film, you will probably hate this review. So we're going to start by talking about the trailers. So this is where I was, my frame of mind before I went to see the movie. My first impression from the trailers was the characters seem new, they're interesting, and they seem like these proper rebellious badasses, which is obviously what you want from like the original Rebels. And I adored the music that they used in the trailers. They were able to do music, so some of the trailers was more Peril, it was the kind of Empire theme. Then they used more of the Rebels theme in happier trailers, and it was amazing how they used really similar trailers, but the music was able to completely change the feeling of it. Obviously, we found out very early on what the plot was going to be, and it's how did the Rebels get their hands on the Death Star plans. The siren that was used in the trailers, part of me was like, that's really annoying, but another part of me loved the effect, and that siren sound just really kind of rings through you. As the trailers kind of progressed, I enjoyed the characters more, and then of course the appearance of Darth Vader had everybody just losing their minds. We also got the trailer where we found out more about Jin's father and how he kind of helped build the Death Star, and we just got a look more into our characters' backstories, and it was more gripping for me because I was like, oh, these characters are more than just we're going to run around and fight. They have really deep backstory. Overall, the trailers, it got me really hyped for the film. It looked like no other Star Wars film we'd seen. It had a big wartime feel to it. The fights looked great, the music was great, and the trailers were just very powerful and emotional. Going into the film, I didn't know really what to expect, but I was definitely excited for it. A lot more excited than I had been for The Force Awakens. The film itself, I haven't got an awful lot to talk about. One of the things I adored, and this is always the first point I make to people, I adored the fact that the weakness in the Death Star that everyone for years had been going, why is that even there? It was put there on purpose by Jin's father. And I loved that. I loved that it was purposely put there, and he made that so that the rebels could destroy the Death Star. I thought that was clever. I liked how the Death Star was actually powered by the Kyber crystals. I thought that was another great, they're building on the mythology, and you have all these extended universe books and comic books and all sorts. Like, start feeding some of that into these movies. For me, the standout character was K2, because for a droid, I loved how he wasn't the polite droid or anything like that we've seen before, like C-3PO. He said whatever came to his mind. He was badass, he was funny, he was the comic relief, but not in an annoying way, so I adored his character. We had I've just written them down as the blind guy and the gun guy, the two kind of bezies there. I liked them as characters. I thought it was interesting we had a Force-sensitive character which wasn't a Jedi, but those two just, as far as the fight scenes when they were interesting to watch, definitely. One of the biggest things in this film is the CGI people spoke about. We had the two CGI characters, Leia and the older general gentleman, but with the two of them, yeah, you could just tell. Like, the CGI was pretty good, but it kind of took you out of the movie because the way they spoke and just their movements were very awkward, especially when you put them next to real life actors. So I thought it was a cool idea, but it was a bit jarring for me. Darth Vader did very little in this movie, but what he did do, I loved. I loved when he was choking the guy and he turned around and you could see him do it. I loved how towards the end Darth Vader just comes storming in with his lightsaber. Like, we didn't see nearly as much of him as I'd like to, but I enjoyed him in this movie. There were so many points in the last battle as well, just the cinematography and the way it looked. It did feel like a full-on war movie, and I loved that look, the colour palette and the feel to it. We got a few little nods to the other films, which George Lucas seems to really love to do. So, of course, we had to see C-3PO and R2, even if it was for a split second. I'm pretty sure they've been in every movie. And we got the Obi-Wan reference as well. And yeah, George Lucas always likes to remind people that these are all the same film and universe, and we're like, we know. We also got a mention of the Black Saber when they were looking for the Death Star plans, which for fans of like the Clone Wars show and stuff, I was like, that's really cool. But with this film, I just thought overall it felt very dull to me. I enjoyed most of the characters. Jyn was my least favourite. I just thought I wasn't a huge fan of her acting. There were so many points in this movie where I was just close to leaving the cinema and close to falling asleep, and it just didn't grip me, which was a shame. But it's also one of those like all of our rebel team died, but of course they did, because they're not in episode 4, so we'd question where were they. And it's one of those films where you go, but I know the ending, I know they get the Death Star plans. And for me it was just one of these, it's such a skippable movie, because yeah, it's a cool film. Do I need to know where they got the Death Star plans? Not at all. You know, it finished as episode 4 starts. It's an interesting movie, but it feels like we really don't need it. And to me, just the overall feeling of it was dull. That's not to say there wasn't some great moments, but I just feel like the pacing of it was a big issue for me. Overall, it's my least favourite Star Wars film, and I know a lot of people would be like, whoa. But going to the cinema, I went to the cinema to watch episodes 1, 2 and 3, and it may have been because I was a kid at the time, but the overall cinema experience I enjoyed more. And Force Awakens, however much I bitched and moaned about it, I enjoyed that cinema experience more. And obviously the original trilogy are just untouchable, in my opinion, and in many others. But even the Clone Wars animated movie, I enjoyed that a lot more and had more fun watching that than I did watching Rogue One. But obviously this is just my personal opinion, and I know there will be people that will flat out disagree. The thing is, I'm not one of these people that goes, you enjoyed Rogue One, you're an idiot. I don't think that at all. I have friends that enjoyed Rogue One, fair play to them. Their viewing experience was better than mine. Just in my opinion, by no means the greatest Star Wars film. Some okay moments, but dull is the only proper way that I can describe this movie personally for me. Anyway guys, overall that's just my thoughts on Rogue One. Thank you for watching. Of course, please like, comment, subscribe. We're getting content out there more and more. Really enjoying doing so as well. Don't forget, if you go down below, there's a link to my Facebook, there's Twitter, there's competition news, all that good kind of stuff down below as well. Thank you for watching, guys. See you later.